How's it going, ladies, gentlemen, and people of the Speedforce? Welcome to my The Flash Season 7 Episode 10 review, and if you couldn't tell already, I'm sat down for this one, and I just watched another episode of The Flash that was just... I think for me, it's just really hard to see a show that you really like and liked go downhill this way. And I just don't understand how there's such a lack of self-awareness to how what they're doing right now is just leagues worse than where the show was at in its first few seasons. I much prefer Season 3 over this. I much prefer, Season 4 over this. I think I even prefer Season 5 over this. And before anyone comments it, yeah, I'm still reviewing this because I still like this show at its core. I like what this show used to be. That's not what the show is anymore, but I am hanging on until we get to the Godspeed storyline, until we get to Nora West Allen returning, and all of that good stuff, especially with Impulse coming in. I obviously want to express my opinions on that, and obviously I will be giving my thoughts on Season 8, Episode 1 and 2, but I'm not joking. I think I'm going to completely ditch this show. Absolutely ditch it. I no regrets whatsoever, other than this kind of sadness that it's a situation of where I feel like I've been clinging on to a show that no longer is what it is, and I've been in denial about it for a while, with those fleeting moments of good moments in The Flash. Does that make sense? So we've had good moments throughout the seasons, and I think that was enough to kind of somewhat pull me by, plus my love for the cast and, you know, Grant Gustin's Flash, and, you know, but now it's really, especially with Carlos and Tom Cavanaugh leaving at the end of the season, it is the personification of past its sell-by date. And I am not a hater. I like to think of myself and I try to be a compassionate critic, so I don't want to shit on things for shitting on its sake, or if that makes sense. I try. But this is just bad. So let's start at the beginning. This was well, it wasn't the cherry on the cake, but it almost was just right after the bat of the episode. We start right where we left off, and that is with the reverse Speed Force, you know, doing her little shaky hand thing, threatening to kill Dion. And I almost can't articulate because I find this so dumb. And seriously, like, just want to preface this, I don't make negative reviews that often, like, to be honest. If you go through, if you've been subscribed to me for a long time, you know when I'm like this, I'm like it for a reason. So this is where Dion threatens to send her back in time. You know, he's literally like, you know, lady, you crazy, like, you crazy. And that is when she's like, that is no way to treat your big sister. Obviously, you guys know I find this whole family thing cringy because they're not family. I mean, I suppose the only person I can somewhat understand that from is the Speed Force, because she is literally an embodiment of the elemental force, whereas Dion and these other beings, or humans should I say, just have these forces inside them. So Speed Force, you're talking to Dion there. Like, either way, she says, I could kill you at any time. And I was just thinking, it's time, but you wanted to kill him, so why aren't you killing him? But that is when I had it revealed to me. I got my answer. And that is because... This is the same Speed Force we've had since Season 1. Where it was a much better character. A much better character. It was ambiguous. It was mystifying. Like, you only saw her when Barry went in the Speed Force, so you had that moment where it's so ambiguous. At the end of Season 3, she appears to Barry as his mother, because it makes sense. You know, I like that reason, and, you know, they walked into the Speed Force together. That was so much better. But now, what you're doing is just the most stupid thing you could have ever have done with the Speed Force. So she says, you and I have a common enemy. Our father, Barry Allen, rejected me, just like he rejected you. Now tell me something. How does that make you feel? Let me just say, that is stupid in and of itself, but I don't remember Barry rejecting Dion. He actually tried to really help him. Dion's the one who disappeared. But anyway, why did Dion in that moment just look at her like, that might make sense? Because seconds prior, he was literally just like, lady, you crazy. So why is that making sense to him? That's like arguably the most crazy line she said. Our father, Barry Allen, has rejected me, just like he rejected you. Now tell me, and now she wants to go after Barry. the Speed Force that powers Barry wants to go after Barry. This is just ridiculous. So let me just say, that was like one of the most dumb lines I've ever heard from, especially when talking about the character of the Speed Force, I've ever heard on The Flash. I think it's just so silly. It is cringy. I shouldn't have to explain why. I know cringy isn't a proper critical word, but I trust all of you know exactly what I mean by that. It's just, this is worse than Burrito Blanket Speed Force now. This is peak cringe, unless it can get worse, which I'm guessing it can. And it's gone from her wanting the Force is dead to now not wanting the Force is dead. I mean, maybe. I mean, she's just teaming up with Dion. One thing I will say is Michelle Harrison, you know, obviously the lady who played Barry's mother, Nora, and now she's the Speed Force and has played the Speed Force before. She's an excellent actress. But that's just like saying try and get Leonardo DiCaprio to spit lines from a Teletubby movie. It'll be awful. So I wanted to run this past everyone. You know, Fraser, or should I say Alexa, literally got brought back to life. I really didn't like that last episode because it's like, okay, Barry and Iris can literally bring people back to life. Not everyone, I will say that. It is probably just the Forces. But the thing I really didn't like about that is the power of resurrection. The fact that Iris could do it didn't make sense. The fact that now, if Barry dies, does this just literally mean Iris just has to touch him, E.T. phone home style, and he will literally resurrect? There's many plot holes in this episode, by the way, that I'll get to. But one thing that a theory that has been out there that may make more sense to me, and I'll take back a couple of things I said, but it doesn't detract too much. I just want to be really honest and open here. Is that if you've heard me before, I've spoken about it, this makes no sense. How did Iris, you know, Barry had no Speed Force left. He was no longer a speedster. Iris somehow, you know, went to the little cortexy thing and like, you know, obviously she had lightning eyes, she had lightning in her, she had the Speed Force in her. She's responsible for the Speed Force coming back, quite literally, because she had the Speed Force inside her. Somebody, I'm really sorry I can't remember the username right now, suggested that it's probably because she's pregnant with the Tornado Twins, which, you know, is who we're getting later on this season with Nora West Allen returning and Impulse Bar Allen. So if she's pregnant with them, which she would have technically got pregnant with them before Barry lost her speed, that kind of does make sense as to why maybe she had Speed Force in her. I actually think that's kind of cool, and that would answer a couple of things, but I still don't like the fact that you can resurrect people now, I guess, if you're compatible. But I just wanted to throw that in there. I don't want it to seem like I'm being unfair. If Iris is pregnant and that theory pans out, that makes sense. Just wanted to chuck it out there. But moving on, that doesn't make up for much, trust me. This is when it's revealed that they can sense each other with the Forces. So Barry, I mean, I guess Iris is included in this because she literally telepathically communicates. So you can literally include Iris in this. So the Forces can sense each other. Speed Force, Still Force, blah 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 Force. You know. So why do you need to track them if you can sense them? Then we had Barry in this episode wanting to train Fraser. Now, thing is, I understood initially he wanted to persist with training her. By the way, I thought it was silly that Barry wanted to train somebody in powers and just train her in general when he has no experience or no idea how to train somebody with Fraser's skill set, or like the fact that she hogs that just makes no sense. But I guess you could. It doesn't make sense. He can't train her, but fair enough if you want to put her in a little cage and try and make her activate and stay under control. But the whole premise of him training her, I think, is a bit silly. But what I think it developed into, which is what people are saying, is that he turned into an annoying character this episode. And I kind of like Daniel Panabaker's Caitlin because she was calling him out. But the issue with it is that I felt like this wasn't Barry's character. He was persisting to a point of where it felt like this was only happen. As I say sometimes, things happen in the show where they're not believable because it's literally written in the script, so the actors will act it out, it's filmed, and it's delivered to us. Does that make it believable, though? No. It's just that it got written. Like, that's the best way I could put it. It felt very contrived, just for, like, you know, a bit of tension and drama in this episode. I know you could argue, but Barry's desperate to, like, save people. I don't think he, like, our Barry would do and go through the lengths of persistence to the point of where he was completely apathetic to how Alexa was feeling. It's just, I don't think I need to articulate that anymore. I trust you guys understand what I mean about Barry. I really don't feel like I need to go on about that one anymore. We have more Camilla and Cisco this episode. They're slowly paving their way to get them out of Central City. We've got a bit more of an answer because all we had at first is that we need to get away from Central City. No apparent reason why, but we're kind of getting in there. I get the reality of the situation. I'm not gonna like rant about something that I know is a real world kind of thing. What I mean by that is if Cisco, or should I say Carlos, wants to leave the show, etc., then, you know, no matter what, like even if you don't think that character would do that so much, they're gonna leave. So it's gotta be half whack or half decent with whatever reason they put in the storyline. Plus, you know, when you see Cisco get yeeted by Freza, you know, that could be another reason. Little things like that. By the way, that would have done so much more damage to the human body than what he had in this episode. But, you know, that's something I can normally let slide. This is where we get a bit of the reason as to why he wants to leave, and I don't know how to feel about this. He says, never told anyone this, but when Psych whammied him, it showed him his worst nightmare, and he saw himself 40 years from now still working at Star Labs. Okay, and that's not a bad thing, not entirely. He says he's learned a lot here, made family here, but in this nightmare, everybody had moved on, and he hadn't. And it was just him, and he had this insane regret for not doing anything else with his career. But the reason why I disagree with this is because no matter what, in the future of Central City, 40 years from now, speedsters are going to be protecting it, and one can assume they're still going to be working out of Star Labs. I understand, because initially I thought, why would people move on? But oh yeah, like Barry and that would be like nearly 70, so yeah, there would be new mantles being taken up. But I don't know, like, fair enough if you want to do something else, but I don't see why he's making it out to be such a bad thing. I don't think Star Labs and everyone would have moved on. It would have evolved. So I feel like that's not actually an accurate assessment, honestly, just because we know the Flash's children and for generations protect Central City, and I don't see why they wouldn't operate out of Star Labs. But also, it's just like, remember David the Smolcian's Abracadabra, and he calls it Mecha Vibe? That teases that he's Mecha Vibe in the future. But no, I guess he's not, because he's going to Miami or somewhere. I don't know, like, I'm not going to waste much time on this because regardless, like, he's leaving. I don't care at this point, to be honest, what storyline they're going to give him for leaving, because I don't think anything will really be good enough in terms of, like, a believable reason for the character to leave. Plus, what kind of job is Cisco going to move to? You know, what, making some tech in another city that compares to being in Star Labs, doing what he's doing and all of that. But, you know, fair enough. Moving on. This is where we had Psych this episode. This is where things get he reveals himself, so we see his face, and his name is Bashir. And this is kind of like another thing that kind of just rubs me up the wrong way about all of this. Now, see, this doesn't seem like the Forces. Now, what I mean by that is they're articulating that, oh, you know, the reason why I want to keep them around is because they're technically our kids, these Forces. I can see all the good they're doing down in the future. But, like, the way they've articulated it in previous episodes is that the Forces are doing this, but no, like, this is the humans. Bashir isn't a good guy. Like, he just isn't. Dion, what, I mean, like, he's complicated, but, like, he's technically wasn't great either. So it's not the Forces, like, causing havoc around Central City. It's the people who embody them. Just like if Barry turned bad, he would be using the Speedforce to do bad things. So I guess what I mean there is, like, why would these people really change all too much? Plus, at the end of the episode, like, you know, fair enough, Bashir came around a little bit, but, like, just wait till I get onto that. But he doesn't seem like much of a great guy, but it's just, it's very far-fetched for one to get on board with. Do you know what I mean? I would argue, seriously, that Barry getting rid of those Forces would have probably been the best thing to do. Because, like, it wouldn't have killed Bashir or Dion. They would have been back to their normal lives before 2 weeks ago when they didn't even have the Forces, like, at that point in time. I do get it. I do get the other arguments for keeping them around because they're technically elemental forces or whatever. But, you know, I just find it hard to believe that these people would turn around with the havoc they've been wreaking in the episode so far. And the only reason, literally, they will turn around is because they seem to really fanboy out about talking people down with the power of love this season, which, yes, it happens again in today's episode. So Kramer is sticking around. Man, I just, when I thought I was kind of rid of her, like, so here, don't take it this the wrong way, I don't mean that in like a mega bad way. It's just, I'm not really here for it. So you may remember me comparing this to Arrow Season 5's FBI storyline, where it was just annoying. It was just like, go away. Like, this is a boring storyline. You are annoying. And now we have Kramer's, like the Flash's version of that, because she's sticking around. Joe spots a little order for a sniper rifle, which we find out later is basically the ammunition has metahuman cure in it. And Kramer is kind of just waiting to use it. There's no precedent for it yet, but she says that she's more or less been authorized to use extreme measures in emergency combat situations. One thing I will say is, like, fair enough, I can recognize they're trying to give Joe a bit more of an interesting story. I was actually, like, giving a bit of credit to it for that this episode, but I think Kramer just winds me up a bit. Oh yeah, and we saw Patty Spivot and Julian Albert's face again. Way to remind us of when the show was a better show. And later on, Joe talks to Cecile about it, and he talks about maybe wanting to investigate her. And that is when Cecile says, you know, it's got to be her choice, otherwise she's never going to back down. And that is when she says, so what are you going to do to help her get there? Well, you gotta talk her down, Joe, because that is what we do this season. And so this is around this part in the episode, the training begins. Simultaneously, we have Central City Citizen team going to that member of whatever leagues, like the Rich League or whatever. I don't care anymore, like it's rich people. And here he is, Psych, scares the crap out of her. Flash arrives. Barry, of course, tries to appeal to him, says that he's in danger of Nora. You know, all of this is fine at the minute because, you know, like he's just warning her about the Speedforce. He's trying to appeal to him, and we see Barry get knocked away from Psych with these little Psych tentacles that come out of his back, which move as fast as Barry. Thank you for including that line, because usually, you know, one common thing with the Flash, but obviously it's kind of hard to do, you know, a TV show without letting things like this slide with the Flash, is that, you know, there's many opportunities where he lets something hit him or something happen where he can literally enter Flash time at any point in time and just avoid something. But today they introduced a line of that those tentacles moved as fast as him, so that's fine. I'm guessing that means, by the way, that Psych can't move like a speedster, but their little tentacly things can. So I just wanted to give credit where credit's due, because normally the writers leave stuff like that out all the time, and it makes people think, well, why didn't Barry put a metacuss? Why didn't Barry dodge the little balls on the floor in Season 4 when he tripped up? As the episode progresses, we learn that Psych was a rich kid. He was orphaned twice, and they abandoned him. Training continues. Fuerza hulks out. The little force field doesn't hold. Cisco gets damaged, as I mentioned earlier. As I already went over as well at this point, Caitlin is calling him out. I really just don't like the line of how she was saying your greatest enemy, you know, Thorn, was more patient with you than you're being with your own daughter. It's not his daughter. That's what I mean. I like Caitlin this episode. She reaches out to Fuerza. And by the way, that doesn't mean I don't normally dislike Caitlin, but anyway, moving onwards. To give her the little mind dampener thingy so she could communicate with Fuerza, like the other half of her. Which is when Psych is after yet another billionaire who is escaping. And this moment, yet again, very typical Flash stupidity. So, you know, which is when he's in his little rich racing car. Psych appears, he skids but doesn't crash the car. And he doesn't drive off. He's literally in the car, hands on the wheel. He just stays there. Why don't you drive? Why did you get out the car? I mean, I guess at a certain point, maybe, to play devil's advocate, when he saw Psych's face, that's his buddy, Bashir. So it's like, okay, maybe I will talk to you. But like, when you're like seeing a horror film kind of person just appear and disappear, you would drive. Like, no matter what, you wouldn't have waited till Bashir got rid of the face mask or whatever. He would have already driven off by that point. So do you know what I mean? They could have set that thing up a lot better. Maybe Psych could have just walked into his place of work or something. Why introduce a scene where you have such a stupid decision which is just not realistic? You would drive either way. Moving on, this is where Bashir, as I said, removed the mask. So are you telling me that you know, let's think about this for a second, there's no nanotech with that mask? So Psych manifested something with an elemental force. So, you know, just like in the comics when Barry manifests the suit, which has never been done on the show before, what we have seen this season so far, even though it's cool, is like one of Cisco's nanotechy things. But I think it's kind of a shame, I don't know if this slipped people's heads, that another Force did this before Barry. Like, he literally peered the mask, disappeared the mask. There's no nanotech to that. He just did it through the Force. So that's just like the comics. So he did that before our own Barry Allen did. I mean, that's not a huge thing, by the way. I just thought, oh man, like, okay, that's kind of cool. Like, you just manifested that face mask, but oh, it's a shame Barry's never done or figured out how to, I don't know, forge a flash suit with his own Speedforce. So, you know, whatever. So Barry's wrapped up in the tentacles in this moment. Alexa reaches out to Fraser, and Fraser catches Barry, and all it took is Bashir. Listen! So once again, ladies and gentlemen, we are talking down. So Barry says the others didn't give up on him. You know, all those rich people he was going after, apart from that one lady. They started a fund to put him back on his feet, but he pushed him away. All I was thinking is, in this moment, it's just like, I don't get why writers treat, on the CW shows, treat their audience so dumb. It's like, they're not gonna think... I mean, it does go over a lot of people's heads, but as soon as you kind of start to think this stuff with these shows, you see it everywhere. So you're telling me one of these people didn't think to tell Bashir that they were helping him? How convenient. Do you know what I mean? Like, if they had just told him... I mean, you would have thought your friends would be like, you know, saying, hey, no, I'm helping you out. Okay, moving on. This moment anyway is funny because Alexa says, you're family. No, you're not. You're not. And anyway, he's talked down. This is when Iris telepathically communicates, saying, we'll wait for you, Bashir, as long as it takes. The choice is yours. I think at this point, I truly lost it. Iris can telepathically communicate with forces now. So why haven't we been how did she know to do that? She just went, okay, so why didn't you telepathically communicate with Dion, Psyche, and all these other... Why didn't you do that to try and appeal to them in any episode before this? You could say, look, she didn't know how to do that. How did she know to do it in this episode? Why didn't you telepathically communicate with all of the forces beforehand if you can just do that at will? Another thing, if you can sense them, why not track them through sensing them or whatever? It's just hole upon hole. I know you can offer defenses. You could argue, I mean, think about it. You could argue maybe it doesn't work that way, but it's like, well, they didn't write that in there to tell me otherwise. They've just given me this and presented me this, so it just doesn't add up. This is what it's like all the time. This next bit is, I think, the personification of the cringe on the Flash, because it's when they're back at Star Labs, he's like, I decided to give family a try. And then we have Fraser just... This is like the personification of what I mean by when writers write something on the page, on the script, so that's the only reason why it's in the episode. Yes, I'm aware of that is how it works in general, but just for why such dumbassery is in a scene, you get what I'm trying to say. And then Fuez's just like, don't make me angry. So, just seconds before that, like, there was a sincerity to, like, my family. And now these two are, like, already, you know, facing and squaring off with each other. It's just so... That's just so awkward. And cringe. It's like, we're family. And, you know, it's like... And now it's just... It's like, oh my god, what is this? Like, they were literally on the edge of beating each other up or fighting each other again. And I guess mum and dad are meant to mediate them. Anyway, Joe resigns as captain. Can't blame him. Just get the hell out of Central. Get the hell out of this show, Joe. Save yourself whilst you can, man. Kramer's like, oh my god. And then we have the post-title sequence, which is when Dion arrives with the Speedforce at Star Labs. Didn't he say sorry, by the way? I think he feels threatened by her, so I guess that's his, you know, logic for why he's doing this. And then the Speedforce is like, you made me do this back. No, he didn't. You're making yourself do this, you stupid idiot. Plus, you just wanted to kill the forces, and you got a force right next to you. And so the fact, like, in of itself, think how transparently stupid this is. She thinks the forces are trying to kill her or whatever, right? Is anyone trying to kill her? Literally, she's working with Dion. Is he trying to kill her? No. Is anyone else? No. So what is your mission? You stupid breakfast blanket burrito Speedforce. None of this makes sense. It's just so stupid. But anyway, she lightnings the crap out of everyone. Barry turns around, he's like, no. I'm guessing they're all fine, though. I mean, come on. You can notice that the Speedforce is kind of getting a bit more edgier. She's got more pale skin, darker lipstick and stuff, a boatload of eyeliner. As I said, Michelle Harrison's amazing. I just feel bad that she has to give all her acting chops into such stupid storylines. And yeah, don't forget, this is the same Speedforce who was like this kind of cool, godlike, mystery, ambiguous force we've seen in previous seasons. And I don't know, even if like this is given some kind of logic as to why she's this irrational and dumb because of Bloodwork's taint from a season is somehow still just giving her a virus in her elemental force. That won't make up for any of this dumbassery. And that is the episode. So there we have it, ladies and gentlemen. That is the state of The Flash right now. I do not understand how anyone could think this is good television. As I've said, if I psychoanalyze myself, the reason why I'm still watching is because, you know, I want to talk about this. You know, I believe it or not, I like, obviously, making this review. But obviously, I love this show. I love the cast, for the most part, you know, I'm pretty sure. And I've had very fond memories watching this from season 1 till now. You know, I'm not just going to drop it, especially when I'm hoping for better episodes throughout the season. It's just, it's a really weird experience seeing something that was so good become so, it's lost its identity. It just doesn't, look, I'm repeating myself, so there it is, guys. I don't know what to say anymore. If you like this, I don't know how, but fair, good on you. I'm not trying to sound patronizing or anything there, by the way. I seriously mean that. I'm envious of anyone who can somehow blot out all the nonsensical, I can't even articulate, and watch it in terms of, and find it good. But anyway, guys, moving on, hoping this gets better when this storyline is over. I didn't think I could want anything more than the Mirror Master, Mirror Mistress storyline, Mirrorverse storyline to end. More than that, but I do. I want this gone. I want it gone. Get out of here, Force's storyline. Like the video, guys, if you enjoyed it. I would really appreciate that. Comment your thoughts. If you disagree with me, I would freaking love to know what you can say to support all of what I've just criticized on the show. I'm really interested to see if you actually have anything that can defend it. And that's it. So yeah, follow me on Twitter. All the links are in the top pinned comment. And I'm out of here. Goodbye, speedsters. Goodbye. Hopefully there'll be better times ahead.